Today is a very exciting day on the Andrew Burnett Show. I am very honored to have actor and director here, Nick Searcy. He has some very great film and TV accomplishments, such as The West Wing, Fried Green Tomatoes, CSI Miami, and Justified. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Thanks, Andrew. Nice to be with you.
Well, take us back to the year of 1982 when you were doing off Broadway plays such as Guys and Dolls, Cabaret, and Jesus Christ Superstar. Did you ever imagine you would be an actor and director like you are right now?
Well, I decided I wanted to be an actor when I was about 12 years old, and I did a lot of plays all through high school and college and moved to New York after college and did a lot of theater there. So I really had decided what I wanted to be when I was a kid. So, I always joke that the only surprise to me was that I'm not more famous than I am. But I thought I was going to be way bigger than this, but
So, was there ever a moment during that time that you were actually pinching yourself, asking, am I really living the dream right now?
yeah, I mean, there's two moments like that really that I remember. One, of course, is Fried Green Tomatoes, which is kind of the first, really kind of sizable supporting role that I ever had in a film. And it really kind of put me on the map, or at least gave me enough of a profile that I could make a living as an actor after that. And the other one was Castaway, for whatever reason. When I got Castaway with Tom Hanks, it was like the only other role in the film besides Tom Hanks and Helen Hunt and the volleyball. So when I got that role, that was really that was a moment where I just went, wow, I can't believe it. I'm really here.
That's awesome. So, where did your love for acting first develop?
I think it started in elementary school. Even, I mean, I was always sort of I was a good reader when I was young, and so every time there was a pageant or something, they would always let me do most of the talking because I could read better than anybody else, and so that kind of got me used to being on stage. And also, I often talk about how a lot of my uncles and first cousins are preachers, so I went to a lot of revivals and things like that when I was a kid, and I thought for a while I wanted to be a preacher until I kind of realized that what really was attractive to me was that they were on stage and people were listening to them. So I decided then that I wanted to be an actor.
So, who were some of the influences that really inspired you to become an actor?
I would say Tommy Lee Jones. I saw a movie with Tommy Lee Jones when I was in high school. I think it was called Jackson County Jail. And he was just such an unconventional looking guy. And I was like, well, that guy can be an actor. Why can't I be? And then, of course, Gene Hackman, who has sort of been my hero, my idol, because I'm kind of a similar type to him, not necessarily as good an actor as he is, but just sort of physically. And then getting to work with him in Runaway Jury was a real moment too. That was like, wow, I'm working with the guy that I saw in Bonnie and Clyde that made me think I could be an actor.
Wow. So, in the year 1990, you starred in your first film, Days of Thunder. If there was any life lessons that you could have took from acting in that film, what would one of them be?
Well, it was, I think for that film too, since that was the first real film role that I ever got, I was so terrified. I was really, literally, my audition for Tony Scott, my knees were shaking. And I guess the life lesson was, face your fears, don't be afraid, because even on the set, I'm on the set with Tom Cruise and Robert Duvall. And in a scene where, for whatever reason, in that one scene, I had most of the lines. I was like, that was my scene. And it was terrifying, but, I got through it. And I think after that, it was like, okay, I was afraid, but I did it anyway.
So, you're here today to talk about the movie Capital Punishment. I have been doing some great research on this film, and I tell you, it looks like it's going to be just one that really captivates the audience of what truly happened on January 6th. You know, mainstream media has given us their stand. What's your viewpoint on what really happened that day?
Well, as they talk about in the movie, I was there myself, and I was there walking around with an iPhone, taking videos and pictures like any tourist, and I didn't see any of the things that they showed me on television after I got home. I didn't see any of the violence. I didn't see the break-in. I just saw what looked like over 1 million people that were there praying and saying singing the Star Spangled Banner and saying the Pledge of Allegiance and waving flags, and it looked like a kind of a boisterous tailgate party to me. It didn't look like a riot. So when they started showing us all the violence, I was sort of like, I didn't see any of that, and that's kind of how the impetus for making the film came about. Is like, why are they only showing us that, and they're not showing us any of the other stuff that I saw?
So, do you believe that it was an organized rally that's been taking part for years, or was it just something that spontaneously occurred?
Well, a lot of that's in the movie. I mean, I think that a lot of it was a setup. I think that there were agents there, provocateurs there, people that were not necessarily there just to protest the election, like the Trump supporters were, who did instigate and participate in some of the violence. And we actually have them on film in the movie. There's a BLM activist named John Sullivan, who is the one who shot the video of Ashley Babbitt being killed. And he was inside the Capitol telling people, we need to burn this place down. He had a knife, and he's not a Trump supporter. So just that fact alone, they're hiding from you. Christopher Wray gets up in front of Congress and testifies that there's no BLM or Antifa people there. Well, it's in my movie. I'm just some actor guy from Burbank, and I know that he was there. How does Christopher Wray not know he was there?
Wow. And it always seems like the media is hiding certain parts of certain events. So we really don't know what the truth really is.
Well, they focus it. They focus their narrative. This is the story they want you to know. This is the thing they want you to believe. And so anything that disagrees with that, or even nuances it, is something they just leave out. I mean, they leave out the fact that most of the people there at the Capitol were my age. They were about in their 60s. What are we going to do? What are we armed with? Like polygrip and blood pressure medicine or something? It's like, what if you're going to take over a democracy, you're going to need some young people. And most of the people there were old patriots like me.
And that's what America really needs, is the patriots to take a stand, or we wouldn't be in all of this nonsense that we're in now.
You'll see in the movie, most of the movie is talking about what has happened to people who went there, who didn't go in the building, and how their lives have been intentionally destroyed by the FBI and the Justice Department. They are targeting these people, they are demonizing them, and they are ruining their lives, not only to punish them, but to send a message to everyone else: don't stand up to us, don't resist us, or this is what will happen to you. And it's an intentional terror campaign by our own government, which is very, very, that's hard to stomach. It should not be happening.
And it was sad to hear about Ashley Babbitt. Tell us a little bit about what actually happened.
Well, we interview Ashley's husband in the film, and it's a really heartbreaking interview. And what we do is really humanize her and tell people who she really was. She's been so demonized in the press. They paint her as some crazy right-wing Trump supporter who wanted to, overthrow democracy. Nothing could be further from the truth. She was there to support the Constitution. She was there to support the president that she thought was elected. And she did so peacefully. She was not armed. And you see in the movie that when she was shot, the policeman who shot her had his gun out for about 30, 45 seconds before she even showed up. So there was no reason for him to pull that trigger without giving her one verbal warning, without saying stop or I'll shoot. None of that occurred. He didn't say anything. She showed up in that window and he shot her. She was surrounded by police when he shot her. He shot right into a group of policemen. So none of the things that they say about the Ashley Babbitt murder are true or even make sense.
And it's situations like that that'll turn you into anti-police because they're really overstepping their territory when they do things like that.
Yeah. And there are other things that happened that day that are just now coming out that even came out after we had finished making the movie. Like another woman, Roseanne Boylan, who died that day, who they claimed died in a drug overdose. She was actually beaten to death. That's coming out now, that the Capitol Police in the tunnel were beating people, and she was beaten and trampled. And, they cover that fact up. They run with this idea that Officer Brian Sicknick was killed with a fire extinguisher when he was never hit with a fire extinguisher. 3 months later, they had to take that story back because he died of a stroke the next day. But for 3 months, they ran with the story that this officer was murdered by Trump supporters, and it's just a lie.
Yeah, and that's one thing about this rally. They pictured these Trump supporters and these Republicans as some demonized acting people.
Yeah. And a lot of those people you'll see in the movie in Capital Punishment, a lot of those people were not Trump supporters. They were dressed like Trump supporters. They had the red hats on and they had the gear, but they weren't acting like Trump supporters. They were screaming, go into Capitol, burn this down. That's not, every time I saw anybody do anything like that when I was there, everybody around that person said, stop it. That's not us. That's not MAGA. We don't do that. So there were a lot of people there who were not what they were pretending to be.
So how can this movie right now, how can it compare to the current affairs that's going on in the world today?
Well, it compares in the sense that we show you that, shocker upon shockers, the government doesn't always tell you the truth. The media doesn't always tell you the truth. I don't know how we got to a point in this country where everybody believes everything Dr. Fauci says, everything the government says. I mean, after Vietnam and JFK and the Gulf War and weapons of mass destruction and Tuskegee experiments and all the times the government has lied to us, I don't know why all of a sudden thinking that the government could lie to you makes you some sort of insane right-wing conspiracy nut. It's not like it's never happened before.
And that's the thing about it. I mean, we continue to believe these lies that the media has given us, and it brings on a fear to where people don't want to do anything.
Right, and that's intentional. I mean, that is the point of having a terror campaign. You want to instill fear in everyone by, when you see in the movie, the FBI driving armored vehicles down these little suburban neighborhoods, 20, 30 SWAT team members with long rifles, red sights on them, sights on the people's chests, breaking down the doors of people that have never been arrested for any violent crime before in their lives. They are treating them like drug cartel leaders or serial killers. And the reason they do that is to send a message to their neighbors, to demonize them in front of their neighbors and turn their neighbors against them and say, because a lot of these people, they lose their businesses, they lose their jobs, they're kicked out of their homes. And it's to destroy lives. And it's also to send a message, don't ever, ever be one of these people because the government could do this to you. It's like something that would happen in a totalitarian country, not America.
So what message do you hope that viewers take from watching Capital Punishment?
I hope that they take the time to watch this movie to see how their fellow citizens are being treated by the FBI and by the Department of Justice, and just ask themselves the question, do I think this is fair? Do I think it's fair the way these people are being treated? These may be people that you disagree with. This is for Trump, people who voted for Trump, people who didn't, Democrats and Republicans. Just look at this movie and ask yourself, do you think this is fair the way these people are being treated?
And most times it's not fair the way that people are being treated.
No, you'll see in the movie not only the things that the FBI has been doing, but also the way these people are being treated by the Department of Justice. A lot of these people, they're middle class people. These are not people that have a couple $100,000 laying around that they can pay to a lawyer to help them with their legal troubles. A lot of them get these court appointed attorneys that live in Washington, D.C., and the court appointed attorneys are not really interested in defending their clients because they really work for the government. So most of these attorneys don't really do much except try to get these people to plea bargain, try to get them, look, you're facing 32 years for 6 charges. If you just plead to this one felony, you'll probably do 6 months. And, you won't be able to vote or ever own a firearm, but at least you won't be in jail for the rest of your life. And they just try to scare these people into taking the plea deal. And then they can go back to the government and say, see, we caught another one of those evil insurrectionists. And it's a really, really sick, twisted thing that's going on. And so many people are still in prison in D.C., most of whom did nothing but walk in the building and walk out, or some of them not even go in the building at all.
So from interviewing the president of the Proud Boys to sharing recordings from Ashley Babbitt and talking to her husband, was there ever a special moment for you while producing this film that you'll never forget?
I think one of my favorite moments in the film is I discovered that there was a man from my hometown in Sylva, North Carolina, who had been arrested. And I tried to find him, and I read things about him, and his business had been closed. He had been ostracized out of the community. And so I decided, I finally got in touch with the guy, and I went to my hometown and interviewed him about his experience, and just sort of being able to bring that home for myself a little bit, to just go, this is not just people in big cities or people in California. This is happening to people all over the country, and even in my hometown. And that was very gratifying for me.
So to close out this interview, how can people find out more about capital punishment?
There's 2 places you can go right now: capitalpunishmentthemovie.com. That's capital with an O, capitalpunishmentthemovie.com. You can purchase it there, or you can also go to hisglory.tv, and you can purchase the movie there. It's $9.99 for a streaming, or you can also add a DVD option and get a hard copy of the movie. But it's a permanent stream. It's not like a download, but you can always access. If you buy it, you can watch it as many times as you want. You just have to go back to the website and log in.
Well, Nick, I have enjoyed talking with you today about capital punishment, and I encourage all of our viewers to go out and watch this movie as we really see what happened on January the 6th. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Andrew. It was a pleasure. Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you. You have a good day.
Okay, you too.